Hi, fans of high quality entertainment. We're back again to exchange albums. And then the next week, we're going to review and rate them. I'll offer two albums first. First up is one that I think, well, Glen's definitely familiar with, and Steve kind of familiar with, but maybe he might choose it anyway to listen to it a few more times. It's one of my all-time favorite albums, and it's a mixture of like old country, pop, rock, progressive rock. It's just there's no album like it, and it is No Other by Gene Clark, who of course used to be in the Byrds, and it's just an amazing album, and I highly recommend, if you've never heard it, to choose this. And the second one, I'm on I have this Patreon, and some of you know Pow or Jean, and she offered up this album for me to listen to. And I always thought that this band was just, your typical punk band from the 70s, 80s. But I was really impressed with this. And there's actually one song on it because they were prog rock fans. It's actually about three sides of studio. The fourth side is live, so you don't have to, rate or review that. But the last song is 17 minutes long. It's like a prog rock song, and it's called Curtain Call. But anyway, this band is so good. It is The Damned, and it's called The Black Album. So highly recommended. Okay, Steve.
Larry, you didn't practice what you preached.
Well,
you said you're going to make sure you pick good albums.
All right.
I hate you, Glen Kellaway.
My first album came out in 2008. It was, I believe, my album of the year. And that is The Choir Boys, Homewreckers, and Heartbreakers. Spike, who is their lead singer, he's a Rod Stewart disciple. If you like early Rod Stewart, like up until Never a Dull Moment, or if you like Faces, especially Not As Good As a Wink and Ooh La La, you'll love his voice. Sounds probably a little rougher than Rod Stewart. His vocal cords are definitely soaked in whiskey. But just a fantastic album. They're a British band, but they do have a bit of an Americana feel, but just a little more rock to it than your typical Americana. So there is that. And then from 2012, I have some prog rock, and that is Sound of Contact and their album Dimensionaut. I think this was if it wasn't my first, it was my second choice for album of the year. And there's only two members in that band, and unfortunately that is the only album they ever put out. And the drummer, lead singer, is Phil Collins' son.
Wow.
But it's Simon Collins. It's not Nick Collins, who played with Genesis on tour. And
sorry, Steve, I didn't catch the name of the band.
Pardon me?
I didn't catch the name of the band.
Sound of Contact.
Sounds of
Contact.
Contact?
Yep. Yeah, Sound of Contact. The album is Dimensionaut. It's a concept album. I showed it, Marsha, on our live stream. Yeah.
Yep, I remember.
As soon as you hear him sing, you think it's Phil Collins. So there's no denying who his father is. Just a very good album. So there you go.
Cool. Glen.
Me next.
Steve,
I'm going to start off with an album from 1992. Love this album. Americana roots band, I guess you would call them mostly, Los Lobos, and the album's Kiko. great record. Gets rave reviews. Probably their best album. Kind of a mix of rock and with a bit of a Latin influence on some songs, obviously, and rootsy, Americana. A couple of really good rockers on this album. All the songs are just really good. It's just a really solid album. It gets rave reviews. Critically acclaimed album. Kiko by Los Lobos. Secondly, an album that came out last year. The band is called Dawes, and the album is called Misadventures of Doom's Scroller. It's Dawes is kind of a band that's reminiscent of the Laurel Canyon era. That's kind of where their influences are. Their earlier albums sound a lot Jackson Brownish, kind of very good lyrics. The vocalist sounded a lot like Jackson Brown. This album, they kind of branched out a little bit, got a little more adventurous. But I picked it as one of my top 20 albums of the current century. So I think it's a great, great record. Misadventures of Doom Scrawler, Dawes.
Marsha.
All right. So I have misplaced what it was I was going to suggest. Oh my gosh, this is embarrassing. Where the hell did it go?
That's okay. He'll let it out. This.
Chris, you go first, and then you go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, I know
All right.
you heard it.
You got
Okay.
it? You got it?
Sorry.
Okay. Okay, Marsha.
All right. So I'm bringing back the Marianne Faithfull CD that I had presented last week. I've been attempting to connect my recommendations to the albums that I just listened to. So the connection with this is, David Bowie sang about Bob Dylan, and she sings a lot of Bob Dylan on this album. As I had indicated last week, it's an album full of covers. She was deep in her drug addiction when she recorded this, so it's got some somber overtones to it. Again, I love this album, and I think somebody should choose it.
What's it called? The
Rich Kid Blues.
Okay. Okay.
And then my next suggestion is a suggestion I'm making because I think this album, for its content, is often overlooked. And it's the Cars Candy O. I think the cover is more popular than what's actually contained in this album. And I think that's a shame because this is a great album. It just unfortunately was their follow-up to their debut, which is basically a greatest hits. But this is still like an A- album in my book, but nobody, I feel, pays any attention to it. So I'm offering this up because I think it needs a re-examination on its own, not in comparison to their debut album.
The album is paid attention to in my house. It's actually hanging above our bed.
Oh, is it? I won't make any snide comments about that, Steve.
Okay.
Oh, and it's Candy-O, in case
Yeah,
anybody
Candy-O.
didn't know. It's Candy-O.
I've got In the Court of the Crimson King hanging over my bed.
I've
sure
got
you guys can all guess what's
sticky
hanging
finger.
over
Never
mine.
mind. Okay, Chris.
All right. I've got my stash of records from the 70s you may not have heard, but I'm going to not do that this week. I decided I'm going to go a little more mainstream. There's no doubt in my mind that you've heard this one. You had to have heard this one, but I just kind of revisited it after a long period of time, and I just really kind of refell in love with it. It's Rush, A Farewell to Kings.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's just a beautiful album. I mean, it's got Xanadu on it. It's got Cygnus X1, Closer to the Heart, and Farewell to Kings, and Cinderella Man. And just, I know that, if somebody's a Rush fan, they probably know these songs backwards and forwards. But it's just, if you haven't heard it from beginning to end recently, it's a great full album from beginning to end. So that's my first one. And my second one is a little more current. I really liked the output of this group while they existed, and I like what the lead guy does, a lot of what he does on his own too. But I really liked them when they were this particular band. I have the White Stripes first record. It would have been from, I think, around 99 maybe that it would have came out. But it's just so raw. It's so raw. And it was so kind of great to hear at that time a fairly young guy who was so blues influenced at that time. You know, I mean, I'm sure he still is, but at that time and at his age, in the middle of what was going on musically around him, to have somebody pull out a slide guitar, and that was different for its time. And just, I love the distorted vocals, and just, it has like, it's like like punk rock and blues married each other. It's just a really great record. So
Is that self-titled?
Self-titled is their very first record.
All right. So lots of good ones this time to, you know, there's seriously more than two that I would choose, but I can only choose two. I'm going to go with Steve's Choir Boys. I think I bought their very first album when it came out years and years ago. They had a hit song, I think, on the radio. I forget the name of it, but
first album came out in 1990. In fact, they were managed by Sharon Osbourne at that point.
Yeah. It's cool that, you know, they've been around all these years. And I remember, the lead singer, his vocals and everything. So that could be a good one. So I'm going with Choir Boys. And I'm going to also go with, because I have heard this album also, but not for a while, and I know it's going to be a good one. It's going to be Marsha's Candy O by the Cars.
Thank you. I don't know why I always get so excited when somebody picks my album, but it's such a good feeling.
Okay, Steve.
Okay, let me just get your pick down here, Larry. Okay, I am taking, I think Larry cheated a little here, because I think when we were talking in one of your live streams, Larry, I had said, I think you showed the Gene Clark album, and I said, yeah, I have it, but I'm late to the dance with it. I've only listened to it like twice since I've got it, so I need to listen to it again. So I am going to take Larry's Gene Clark album, and I'm going to dip into the vault here, and I have to hear this Eddie Vedder album. So I'm taking Marsha's Eddie Vedder album, since it got such rave reviews by everybody.
All right, Glen.
Okay, you're right. There's a lot of good choices this week. Now, Chris, the two albums you chose are fantastic. I'm so well aware. I was just listening to Farewell the Kings. I've been listening to a lot of Rush lately because I've been watching a lot of Geddy Lee's promotional tour for his book. And so I've been playing the crap out of Rush, and I just listened to Farewell the Kings yesterday. Great album. Love the White Stripes. I'm a big Jack White fan. So I'm not going to pick your albums because I'm just too familiar. I want to pick Marsha's Marianne Faithfull album, just so she'll shut the hell up about it. No, I'm actually seriously. I want to hear that one. And the second one I'm going to pick is Larry's The Damned.
Yeah, so remember that's 3 sides. So it ends on the long song Curtain Call. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, Marsha.
Okay, so this is hard. I know Chris, I can't pick the White Stripes just because I'm very familiar with them. I listen to them a lot. I know this album. I'll already just throw it out. It's an 8.
Wow.
And then, you know what? I'm going to pick Dawes because I am late to the party with them. It's a name that I've heard thousands of times before, and I'm sure I've probably heard them, but not have been able to associate them with their name. So I'm going to choose that. And it's a toss-up between Gene Clark and the Choir Boys. I've heard the Gene Clark before, and I wasn't all that positive on it, but everybody keeps on saying how good it is. So I think I'm going to revisit the Gene Clark. Yeah.
Yes. You know how you said, Marcia, you're so excited when everybody chooses your album? I'm like, I'm excited when Marcia doesn't do it.
Hey, I gave the Richard Hawley a 9. That doesn't mean that the Choir Boys might not be my pick next week.
Yeah.
Especially since you said Rod Stewart. That's right in my wheelhouse. Good Rod Stewart, not bad Rod Stewart.
Yes. Oh, yeah, this is good Rod Stewart. So you can go back in a future date.
You know what we should do also at some point is, one of the weeks, maybe before the end of the year, go back. We all of the albums we've offered 2 of them again each.
Okay.
Right? That nobody's picked yet.
Right.
Yeah. After we get a few weeks behind us, we can do it.
Yeah.
We should also do something like if we recommend an album twice, can't recommend it a third time. Like,
Yeah.
Good point.
You're done with Marianne Faithful now.
yeah, exactly. I'm not going to be bringing her up again. I've got the hint, gentlemen.
I hope I'm not bringing her up next week.
But if Glen really liked the album, he could offer it again. Like,
Oh, yeah,
right?
I guess
That
that
would
is.
work.
Yeah, I guess.
If you
yeah,
really,
we can do
you
that,
want
yeah.
to push the album, yeah.
Yeah. That's not
So we'll have to do something like figure out who's leading points wise in terms of their recommendations.
Yeah. Okay. Chris.
All right. I liked a lot of these. I'm gonna do Los Lobos.
awesome.
And simply because I really don't have a reference point with them at all. So I think that'll be interesting. And I'm gonna jump back a week and I'm gonna take Larry's Paul McCartney.
Yes.
I have not heard one song on that record. So it's a brand new listen for me. So I thought, obviously what's not to like about Paul McCartney, but I've never heard those songs.
Yeah.
So
Chaos and Creation in the Backyard. Yeah.
correct. Those are my picks.
Excellent.
All right.
And that is it. So we'll be back in a week to review and rate these albums, and make sure you subscribe to all of these channels, and also check out Chris's Refresher podcast. Thanks
And if
for
I
watching.
can add, I saw on the comments that some folks had said that they were going to play along, and I thought that was such a great idea.
Yeah.
So everybody
like
who
more.
watches,
Yeah.
put your
Yeah.
reviews
Yeah.
in as to what you thought of our albums. I'm
Yeah.
so curious to read them.
Yeah.
Yeah. The home game edition. That's pretty good.
Yes, that's right. The home edition.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.